So this is a sketch from 1957 to the date 65 years ago, and I'm about to play this guitar.
So when I was going through our archives, it literally fell out of a portfolio. And I was like, does that say T.M. McCarty? What the heck? To me, the history that's present when you pick it up, when you look at it, it gives me goosebumps, honestly. It's just so cool. The archives were all kept in this one specific area that was pretty dust covered. It felt like an archaeologist like digging a historical site or something. Certainly the most interesting was this one cabinet. There was a label on it that just said experimental. I'm like, all right, this one sounds cool. So yeah, I totally dug into that one, and some of it was like from all different eras, going back to the 1900s. There were some designs that old in there. When King Tut's tomb was discovered, the archaeologists, peeked through a little hole first, and they asked him what he saw, and he said, "Things, wondrous things." Like he was just like stunned, right? And it literally fell out the bottom of the portfolio onto the floor, and we're like, "Whoa, what is this?" It was all the proof I needed to move forward with the archive collection idea.
So here we are. This is the Theodore, and I'd love to see your first reactions in the comments below. So make sure to let me know what you think after gently hitting that like button, of course. So here is the actual sketch, or a copy thereof, that Ted McCarty drew. One of the most innovative guitar entrepreneurs in history, by the way. He drew this 65 years ago to the date, and after Matt discovered it again a few years back, Gibson turned it into a guitar you can actually hold and play. So I personally think that this guitar looks absolutely fascinating. The rounded edges, the double tulip cutaway, the walnut stripe down the middle, that retro futuristic aesthetic from the 50s. It's very present on this guitar. This could be a prop in the Jetsons, right? It's maybe because I'm Dutch, but they refer to this guitar as the tulip. I mean, the chunky neck pickup versus that bright, fierce bridge pickup. Kind of digging that vibe.
That's another thing that he called out in the drawing, is that round over on the whole bottom side of the body.
Yeah, that's
which was represented in the drawing, and it took everything we had to be able to do that, because the only way we could get that specific radius, the rounding moving to the flat, was to use a 5-axis CNC machine, which we ordered years ago, and it arrived just in time.
Oh.
So yeah, so it took a lot to be able to do that body exactly like Ted had intended.
Radius to be as large as possible, and I think it looks absolutely gorgeous. This makes the guitar very comfortable, by the way. Somehow it feels very balanced, sitting down, but also standing up. So this guitar is named after Theodore Ted McCarty. He came on board at the Gibson company in the late 40s, and immediately he brought many innovations to the table. It's not for nothing they call his time there the McCarty Golden Era. Looking at the competition, Fender, McCarty knew they had to step up their electric guitar game, introducing the Gibson Les Paul in 1952. And although it's not his name on it, he obviously had a huge hand in the development and the design of the model, but also the refinement of it. So now fast forward a bit to 1957. The Theodore.
Potentially, this was a continuation of the Les Paul. The wrap tail and the P90s on the drawing tell us this was intended to be more of a budget model, more of a student model. His drawing wasn't a blueprint, it was just a crude sketch. So we had to take some creative liberties with that and had to try to channel not only what we thought Ted's intention was, but what realistically Gibson would have done with that idea at the time.
So this guitar definitely feels more youthful, almost frivolous to me. It's easier to pick up, easier to carry around, easier to play around on stage and to swing around with. It's lightweight, as I said before, and I do really love the sound of those P90s in combination with the wraparound bridge. It does something to the sound. That's what I mean, playful. Yeah.
P90s really haven't changed much since they debuted in the late 40s. A very fierce sounding, fiery sounding pickup. Like that's usually how, I hear it described. But some of my favorite artists of all time play P90s. So like to me, it's just like a very soulful sound. That Ted had in there was pretty astounding. Like we couldn't have dreamed it up any better, because we were a little lost on like the intended dimensions, and then the materials like alder, like the fact that he called those out was awesome. The other reason that this is important, just other than the fact that it's a unique design, is when it came about, which was the most prolific span of guitar designs in Gibson history. Just so many instruments created in that span, and this was really kind of the first one of the first ones.
So this guitar was drawn in March '57, and not long after this design was drawn, Gibson would introduce the Explorer and the Flying V at NAMM. All while this guitar was lying somewhere in the drawer, nicely tucked away, for 65 years. So if you've seen the Explorer, you know that they share the same headstock, right? But turns out that this guitar was actually the first that featured that design.
And even when the Explorer was concepted, they didn't even use that headstock. They used the Futura split V headstock. They just kind of had this in their back pocket, and then when they realized that the split V headstock wasn't the best idea, they were like, let's take this one from this drawing.
So if you think that Ted McCarty was kind of a genius, well, yes, but he had some ideas that, well, just look at the drawing. There's two places for the pickup selector, over here and over here. And, well...
Through his drawing, have a few questions. Like, one of them was about switch location. Where should I put the switch? Left or right side? Turns out either one of those places would be terrible for the player. And Ted wasn't a player, so I wouldn't expect him to know that. But... So we chose a placement that was more reminiscent of like a double cut Les Paul Special, which is very similar to this model.
So for me, as a guitar player, so influenced by all these iconic models that got released in that era, the Strat, the Tele, Les Paul, the ESs, the Falcon, the SGs, I mean, name an iconic model and it's probably from that era. And it's so interesting to see what else could have been if there were different choices being made. As an ode to their heritage, they built this guitar, which took them well over 4 years, and I think this could be a new classic. What do you think? So before I go, I wanted to let you know that the reason I've been a bit slow on content lately is that I'm working on a guitar looping course. It's going to be absolutely fantastic, if I say so myself. I just want to get it all right, and it's taking a lot of time, so I hope you understand, but I can't wait to share that with you. It's going to be awesome. Anyway, now I'd love to hear from you. So what do you think about this model? Should Gibson turn this into a more affordable USA range, or maybe even an Epiphone line? Or, do you see yourself playing this guitar? I'd love to hear that. Now, I wish you a lovely day, and probably gonna have to return this guitar. Right? Have a lovely day. Cheers.